Hey everyone, welcome back to Strange Mind 6. I'm your host Ruby, and today we're actually going to be re-recording chapter 12 because thanks to one of our commenters and our lovely friend, we pretty much, I guess there was a problem with the recording, and somehow it ended up starting in like the middle of the chapter where, yeah, it was just, I don't know, it just started there for some strange reason. But I would like to give a shout out to Harl G, if I'm saying your name right. I do apologize if I'm not. But I would like to say thank you for actually saying something about the missing part of the video. And let's just get right into it, shall we? So without further ado, Chapter 12 of Long Live the Pumpkin Queen by Shia Earnshaw. I wake in a bed, white cotton sheets, autumn clouds painted in thin brush strokes on the ceiling above me. The room smells like lilacs and dusty, unused spools of thread, fabric folded and forgotten, left to the moths. I sit up and my head wobbles. The words find me again. The ones that sent my mind tumbling, that made the room teeter and turned everything suddenly dark. Where your parents? The same tipsy inside out and upside down dizziness washes over me now, remembering the way she looked at me, like she knew. She knew me. Like I was hers, and she was mine. Like, we belonged together. In some faraway forgotten past. In a dream, perhaps. A time that was never quite real. Yet when she looked at me and spoke those words, some part of me wanted to believe her. I shake my head and survey the room. It's a perfectly square bedroom, except... Nope. Sorry about that, guys. My calendar poked up. Now, let's continue. Yet, when she looked at me and spoke those words, some part of me wanted to believe her. I shake my head and survey the room. It's a perfectly square bedroom, except for a half-moon sitting nook with windows overlooking the semi-dark town, still not quite night, not quite day. A night light glows near the door, shimmering in amber warmth, and a jewelry box sits on a dresser near a closet, and in some distant cobwebbed corner of my mind, I can picture a tiny doll inside, a yellow tutu ballerina that twirls on a pedestal, and a metallic tune that plays when the lid is opened. It feels like a memory. Like I've seen this box before, known it, touched it. I shake my head, clearing away the clouded thought. Someone spent a childhood in this room. Read books in the half-moon nook, made wishes on pale starlight, and danced finger puppet figures along the wall. slept and dreamed, and felt snug in their bed when someone who loved them tucked them in at night. But it certainly wasn't me. And yet, still, the room feels far away, familiar, wrongly familiar, and also somehow impossibly right. A gentle knock raps against the bedroom door, and then it creaks open. Greta, the woman who touched my face with her soft fingertips, pokes her head through the opening. "Sally?" she asks quietly, carefully. "Are you awake?" "Yes," I answer, my voice a childlike whisper in my throat, caught and strangled. She steps into the room, hands rubbing together, eyes half-moon lidded, and she stares at me as if I might only be a dream, a thing she has wished for, but can't possibly be real. "I think we gave you quite a shock," she says nervously, casting her eyes away like she doesn't know where to direct her gaze, like I will vanish if she looks at me for too long. Merely a bit of morning mist hovering above a swamp, something that will break apart when sunlight reaches me. "But you have given us quite a shock too, appearing after all these years." I swing my legs over the edge of the bed, my head still seesawing. "How is it—" I stop myself, start again. "I don't understand." I shake my head and look up at Greta, searching for the seams of her face. "I'm afraid you can't be my parents," I tell her. "It's impossible. A story that's surely all jumbled up and spit out wrong." She blows out a long exhale, as if she's been holding her breath for far too long. Years, decades maybe. And now she can finally breathe. For half a moment, I think she's going to sit on the edge of the bed beside me, touch her hand on my face again like she did in the other room. But she seems to stop herself. Her eyes find me instead. "You were young when you disappeared," she begins, unearthing a story I suspect she hasn't told in a very long time. "Only 12. A few days after your birthday, actually." She pauses. "You were taken straight from this room, right out through the window." She walks to the windows, where a single candle burns brightly, yellow wax dripping down to the windowsill, her face reflecting back in the glass, uneven seams, and long cherry red hair just like my own. "But I never had a family," I tell her, shaking my head, still feeling unmoored, like I might tip back to the floor if I tried to stand. I wasn't born. I was created, built by a scientist named Dr. Finkelstein in a lab. He invented me." Greta turns to face me. Our butler, Edwin, saw a pale-skinned man steal you away into the forest that night. The man had small pebble eyes and an oversized head. "Is this your Dr. Finkelstein?" My mouth flattens. "Maybe, I think." "Was he in a wheelchair?" I ask. She frowns, then shakes her head. "I don't think so." My mind races. It sounds like Dr. Finkelstein, but how could it be that he wasn't in a wheelchair? Was he younger then, still able to walk? Sneak into another realm and steal a girl straight from her bedroom? Could Greta's story be true? We tried to look for you. We did, she continued. But the doorways at the grove of trees, the doors to the other towns, were blocked on the other side. We couldn't pass through them. Our town is old, mostly forgotten, and our doorways in the other worlds have been overgrown, lost. She swallows, crossing her arms. We never saw you again after that night. A trail of tears leaks from her eyes, staining her cheekbones. I remember when I found the door to Dreamtown, how there had been overgrown vines tangled across the doorway. Maybe the door had been blocked on purpose by Dr. Finkelstein. Maybe he wanted to make sure the door was never found and ensure that no one from Dreamtown ever slipped through. Maybe some part of Greta's story is true. She walks to the window, gazing past the curtain. Then she lifts up something from the windowsill, turning it in her hand. A glass mason jar, empty. Do you remember this? She asks, a small cork at the side of her mouth. A memory. I shake my head. It's the jar where you used to put all of your angers and sads. I feel my elbow lift. My leaves crinkle too. Many questions clouding in my mind. When you were little, she says, whenever you were angry or sad about something, you'd whisper it into this jar, then seal the lid tight. She's smiling fully now, placing the jar back on the windowsill. You always felt better afterwards. I like the way she looks in the window, muted pale, light across her stitched skin, and I want to believe her words, believe these stories of a childhood I might have had, but none of it feels quite right, quite like my life. I don't remember any of that. I answer, scanning the bedroom, looking for anything familiar to remind me of who I might have once been. But only the jewelry box flickers in my mind. Something that might have belonged to me once. If I was 12 when I was taken, I would remember it all, wouldn't I? At last, Greta comes to sit on the edge of the bed beside me, and the closeness of her is an odd comfort, maybe even familiar. Maybe she is the thing I remember, my mind tugging me back to this room, to her. I don't know, she answers plainly. I don't know why some memories are lost and others stick like mud inside of us. But I remember holding you when you were only a day old. You were so small. Your patchwork seems so new and unbroken. Albert kept telling me I needed to let you sleep on your own, in your own crib, in your own room. But I couldn't bear it. I slept with you beside me every night that first year. I named you Sally after my own grandmother, a woman who had your wide, white eyes and who laughed like an owl hooting at the treetops. At this, she smiles, a tenderness in her eyes, lashes dipped low. I touch a hand to the stitching along my chest bone, a peculiar ache fluttering inside me that almost feels like a memory, solid and real. I don't understand. I shake my head, my chest heavy again, the room tipping a little to the left, then right, before I blink, and it centers itself. I was made in a lab, I muttered. An experiment, nothing more. No, she answers, placing her hand over mine, her voice like a cool winter breeze, as if she could undo what's already been done. You used to follow me out into the garden. She nods her head, as though a memory was just as clear as if it happened yesterday. Crawling through the rain-wet soil, pulling up tulip bulbs, and chewing on nightshade carrots when you were teething. We baked crescent moon cookies before bedtime, and I taught you how to sew when you were only 2 years old. You took to it quickly, always so precise with a needle and thread. You were mending your own seams before you could even walk. I want to believe her story, that I was a girl with an ordinary childhood, sucking my fabric thumb and learning to walk, and kissed on the forehead by parents who loved me more than anything, a girl who was wanted, a girl who was missed. Tears begin to break against my eyes, and I can't hold them back. Greta pulls me into her arms, and the scent of lilac linens and warm chamomile honey tea is like sinking into a warm summery dream, like a memory. A tickle in my nose, even this room, the soft midnight colors, the curve of the mattress beneath me, where a girl once slept, feels abnormally, unexpectedly like my own. The shape of me, carved into the fiber of these beds. A room that remembers me. Scratched into the fabric of my skull is a word I can hear, one that echoes and grows louder the more I focus on it. Home. Maybe this was my room, my life. One I'm afraid to let myself believe might be true. Another thought occurs to me. Perhaps I don't remember this life because Dr. Finkelstein made sure I wouldn't. The endless collection of herbs and potions and foul-smelling chemicals stored in his labs, countless books on all manners of dark things. Perhaps he plucked me from this room, stole me away to Halloween Town, then poisoned me and made me forget. Made me think I was simply a creation, a diagram on a lab wall, brought to life by electrodes and wires, not a girl born to parents in a world made of dreams. All this time I have believed an awful, wretched, unforgivable lie. But why? Why would Dr. Finkelstein take me away? I pull myself away from Greta, who might be my mother, and in her eyes I try to see myself, a faraway past I had forgotten. But there is too much noise in my skull, threads knotted and frayed. A moment later, Albert appears in the doorway, knocking quietly and carrying a cup of steaming tea. "It's wild mint," he says, stepping tentatively into the room, as if it's a place he hasn't been in some time. A room filled with the ghost of the daughter he lost. "You loved mint tea when you were little," he adds, placing the cup on the bedside table. I smile up at him. "Thank you." Greta wipes the tears from her cheeks. "You found your way back to us," she says softly. Albert touches her shoulder, and there are tears in his eyes too. 1,000 sleepless nights, when he thought he'd never see his daughter again, when he believed I was lost for good. "We have so much time to make up," Greta says, her cheeks lifting, a warm surfacing in her eyes. So many things to discuss. But hearing her say the word time sends a spark like a knife through my chest, because I'm certain I've wasted too much of it. I came here because something bad has happened in Halloween Town, I say quickly, needing to tell her everything, needing them to understand. Everyone is asleep in all of the holiday towns, and it's my fault. I swallow down the painful sob catching in the back of my throat, the panic finding me again, even in the quiet of this room. I need your help, waking everyone up. I need your help to stop the Sandman. The seams along Greta's temples tug down just slightly, and her eyes flash to Albert. It's not that simple, she says. She stands up from the edge of the bed, then holds her hand out to me. Let us show you Dreamtown. It'll help you understand. And that, my dear friends, is the end of chapter 12. Tune in next time for more chapters and more adventures. And let's see what Sally's maybe parents are going to show her, and will they help her fight off the Sandman and wake the other holidays up? Only time will tell. Thank you dearly for tuning in. If you haven't already, please hit that like button. And if you're not already subscribed, I would greatly appreciate it if you hit that subscribe button and join our family. So, this is Ruby, signing off.